Another episode of Celeste the Therapist podcast. My name is Celeste. I'm a therapist from Boston, and I have my special guest who comes on once a month. So if you're new here and you enjoy our conversation, please know that if you go to celestetherapist.com/podcast and click on Getting Your Mind Right, you will be able to find a ton of other episodes that we have created together. But I'm going to have him introduce himself to you all.
Hi, I'm Jermaine Morris. I'm a certified coach and consultant, and my business is based around a DISC assessment located in Sacramento, California. And everything I like to do, I work under the premise of self-awareness without judgment. So it's really just focusing on how we are, not through the lens of good, bad, right, or wrong, but just understanding ourselves better.
Love that. And I know I have a lot of consistent listeners that actually enjoy the content that you and I do together and have heard this before, but it doesn't hurt to hear it again. And we even have a full episode on this. But why is it important to be self-aware of what's happening with you without judging yourself for it?
Yeah. So number one, just the simplest part is it's very counterproductive. So if we're just trying to look at how am I, how do I do things, how do I engage with people, how do I communicate, how do I process stuff, running it through, is this good, bad, right, or wrong, is using a bunch of mental and emotional energy that is not, like I said, is not very productive. So I like to just start off with, how am I? What am I doing? How am I operating? And then I could look at the results if I want to say if this is what I want it to be or not. I can go through that type of checklist to see the end result. But when we start judging ourselves and we start self-diagnosing and labeling and beating
Yeah.
ourselves up, and we start going down all these rabbit holes of unproductive thought and limiting ideas and narratives, usually that creates a new problem on top of why ever we decided to become self-aware in the first place.
Yeah. And also, let's not forget we're with ourselves 24/7. So imagine having somebody in your ear doubting you all the time. That has to be exhausting, and you're going to struggle with getting anything done, and finding yourself feeling stuck. If you are somebody that is becoming self-aware of your circumstances, be mindful that sometimes the things that you've done or the way that you are is out of survival mode. Um, there's this guy, Dr. Gabar Mate. He created. He has a book called the. Can't think of it right now, but it has to do with like living in a culture that's like the way the culture is and how they consider that norm.
Okay.
The way we operate. And he talked about how some of the ways that we use to survive, they've pathologized it. Right. Like let's say you had a heart, like you was in a traumatic situation, you start to distract yourself, like you go somewhere else, and realizing like now as an adult that doesn't work. You got a wife, a partner, kids, and you're struggling with being present. But the reason why you've learned not to be present is because when you were younger, maybe being present was too painful,
Yeah.
right? Like, and then you get older and they're like, oh, you have this disorder. Instead of looking at like, oh, I did that out of survival mode. I think when we can have grace with ourselves and reckon and not be like, why am I like this? Why can't I just get it together? And it's like, you know what? I can't get it together. This is how I am. How do I work on creating change? Does that
Yeah.
make sense what I'm saying?
Oh, completely. Because like I like to work under the premise of is. Like not
Yes,
is
you
is
do.
is this right, wrong, good,
It's
bad. No,
just
it
what
just
it is.
is.
Yeah.
Like if we had things that went on in our lives when we were younger, so we figured out a way to make it from Monday to Tuesday,
Yep.
and with the limited experiences and information we had at the time we came up with that behavior. Okay, now that
Yep.
we're older and we need to readdress it, yeah, I wouldn't start saying you suffer from or you have this and this. It's no, you're just
This is what it
it's a
is.
cause and effect. It's an A to B. You're just doing
Yeah.
something because of this. Okay, so
Yeah.
instead of saying you're wrong for still using this same type of pattern or behavior, it's just simply this is where it came from. This is why you use it. But here are some
Yeah.
other ways that may be more
Yes.
advantageous to you at this part in junction in your life. Okay.
Yeah.
Just like a
Yeah.
math problem, not just
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And I think that's why my clients love me and I do well in helping people create change is because I don't make it about a diagnosis. I make it about, oh, that was your story. So it makes sense why. Like I'm like kind of like if you cut yourself and you start bleeding, like, okay, it makes sense you're bleeding because you cut yourself, or you got burns because you fire got on you, right? And the same thing, trauma happened. Okay, it makes sense why you've been operating this way. Now let's
Yeah.
like identify it and let's work on creating change.
Yeah, I think that's the best. And that if you cut your finger and you're bleeding, okay, so why do you have this piece of tissue on the tip of your finger? Oh, it's just
Yeah,
to stop the blood. Okay, makes sense. Instead
makes
of
sense.
you shouldn't have put it there. It shouldn't be this. You're wrong for cutting yourself. You're
Right.
clumsy for just with the scissors. You're
Right.
putting all those judgments on how we
Right.
got here. None of that
Yeah.
has anything to do with at this stage now of just healing the finger.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. And speaking of like change, right? I
Yeah,
think, you're as a coach and a consultant, and one thing and I've sent people to you that you work well with is like creating like measurable ways
yeah,
that people can work on creating change, because it's one thing we can talk all day about things in sessions. I talk for a living, and give people like things to think about or things to take home, but you actually give actionable items. Um, Tell me your mindset or what you have seen as people come to you to work on creating change in their life.
yeah. So some people come in with, and depending upon their walk of life, like how. So one of the pluses of the DISC assessment is that in the data it shows people who have maybe a higher tendency to maybe more structure or discipline type of thought processes than others. So some people are
Mhm.
all about structure. So when it
Mhm.
comes to what are the measurables, what are the things that I can look at, those people. But then there's quite a few people who are not. And so when it comes to making those changes, sometimes we have to say, okay, let's let's put something in place so we can follow along to see how this is going.
Mhm.
I was kind of liking it to, if you're trying to get physically in shape, if you're trying to
Mhm.
go from X number on the scale to this number, okay, well, what are we doing every week?
Right.
What how many workouts did you complete in that time period? Like, are we
Right.
actually setting standards to get to the goal, to create a structure, a system that we can lean on, that can help us get out of just our feelings?
Right. Right.
Yeah,
And as you're thinking about that, because if we're using like weight loss,
yeah,
because that's easy to talk about, and I'm wanting to lose weight, but then maybe I'm going to the gym, but maybe there's other things I'm not doing,
yeah,
and you're my trainer, and I'm complaining to you that it's not working. I'm sure that happens a lot where people have this idea on what they want,
yeah,
but in the middle, like, to get from A to Z, there's other letters you got to go through.
yeah,
And I think that's the hard part for people, is that they can see where they're trying to go, but they have a hard time putting in the work
yeah,
to get there. And, I have different theories on why that happens, but how do you help people kind of see that, yeah, I get that you want this, but like, how do we break it down so that we can get clear on it and make it realistic? Because I could say I want to lose weight, but if I'm not being realistic about intention with my time, preparing food, how is it really going to happen?
yeah. So I think the same way. So when you teach a child to read, you don't start with words. You start with the alphabet.
Yeah.
And so once you have an understanding, okay, here are all the letters. Here's all the sounds they make. Like there's a something, there's a structure that you can go to. There's a system in place that will help
Yeah.
you do this. And if you learn that initial system, then you can gradually expand it to what it is you're trying to do. And so for
Hmm.
some people, they just want to jump to the finish line. They just want to,
Hmm.
first day they've never read The Cat in the Hat, and
Hmm.
they're trying to crack open War and Peace, and they're
Yeah.
I might be dating myself with that reference for some people like, what's War and Peace? They're trying to read some Shakespeare day one. I was like, well, we haven't even like you ain't got
Start
all the
the
vowel sounds down yet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's put these things in place so we can look at and we can measure and gauge how much. So like someone who's addressing, say, time management, they have issues with procrastination or whatnot. Okay, well, can we set a standard of what are we trying to do? Okay, so let's put a system in place of scheduling out your time. This needs to be done by out of bed by this time.
Yes. Yeah.
This by this time. This by the, well, I don't think I should have to do these things to be able to not
Mhm.
procrastinate on the other things.
Mhm,
That's like
mhm.
saying I don't think I should have to pay attention to the alphabets R through Z to be able to read any book I
Right.
want.
Right.
So sometimes it's that importance of saying, okay, no, there's a reason why these systems and these standards need to be put in place, and then we can expound upon them.
Yeah.
But a base point is necessary.
Yeah, so it sounds like you have the unrealistic expectations, right? But also something I hear, and I would love for you to expand on this, is people uh it have I'm laughing because it happens all the time. But so, but I don't feel motivated.
Yeah,
And I say, you think I feel motivated every time I do anything I do? Like I think people will see the outcomes of what I do, and it seems like, oh, it's easy, or how do you stay motivated? And I said, I don't know, you tell me, because I don't stay motivated, but I do stay disciplined. Like
that's
there's a
yeah.
huge misconception around um I don't feel motivated, that's why I can't do it. Expand upon that for people, that because this is an issue that a lot of people struggle with, is that feeling motivated.
Yeah. So the thing about how we feel is we become programmed to our behavior. So if you're
Hmm.
like, I don't feel like going to the gym today, but if you go to the gym 4 or 5 days a week, you can find yourself there if you felt like it or not.
Yeah.
I don't feel like waking up early. Probably not. But if you always make yourself get up early, if 5:30 rolls around and you're always out of bed, there are days you felt like it and days that you didn't, but you behaved your
Exactly.
way into getting out of bed every day at 5:30.
Yeah.
So sometimes when it comes to how do I feel, why do I get motivated? The thing is about you're programming yourself to do whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah.
So instead of the thought process of, well, what do I feel like? It's, well, what am I trying to behave myself into? And that's where the discipline part comes in. If it's like I'm getting out of bed at 5 a.m., regardless of how I feel, if I just get it, if I just do it, my
Hmm.
feeling becomes irrelevant after a while.
Mhm, mhm.
If I'm, you know, cutting back on, on the chocolate chip cookies, if I'm just like, okay, no sweets, we just off that right now for whatever. If you just don't do them, like there's days you want some cheesecake, there's days but if you're just
Yeah,
like, I'm going to behave my way into the pattern of behavior I
yeah,
want. And so I think we talked about it before, that you can't think your way out of something that you behaved your way into.
yeah,
And so when it comes to like motivation and how do I feel, it's just simply, what am I doing?
yeah, yeah.
You know,
I wrote down behave your way into what you want, and that's something I'm constantly talking to people about, not just with these like kind of tangible changes, but even thinking patterns,
yeah,
and what they where it doesn't seem like it's going to happen, it doesn't feel like, but like let's create a plan and do it anyway.
yeah,
Because I tell people your mind and body starts to fall in line with the direction that you're going.
yes,
And so if you don't have a direction, that means you're choosing for society to lead you
yeah,
with, like, when you're working, when you're online, not really paying
yeah,
attention to what's going on, then you're making that choice. Not that it's a conscious choice, but you've said this before, like we all have habits. Some of them aren't the best habits, but it's a habit, like,
yeah.
like not the best for what you want out of life. And so really thinking about, like, regardless of how you feel, because, and I'm so big on feelings. You see my little feelings chart over there. Jermaine see me trying to set it up to make sure it made the camera cut. Not because I was gonna say this, but just because it's just a big deal for me.
Yeah.
You know, feelings are things that change. Like how you feel one moment may be different from the next moment. And I always tell people if they're having a hard time, remind their mind that it's a moment. And so if I only made decisions on how I would feel out, I promise you I'll be stagnant. And if you're
Yeah.
finding yourself stagnant, I promise you a lot of it probably has to do with that you're basing your actions off of how you feel, which will keep you in a stagnant place.
Yeah. So some friends, we have the philosophy of principles over feelings. And
Mhm.
so there's a quote that says, at the end of your feelings, there may be nothing, but at the end of every principle, there's a promise.
Yeah.
So you can be caught up in your feelings that have because you're hungry, because you're tired, because somebody
Yep.
cut you off on the road. Your feelings can have you all over the place. Like and they're not actually rooted to anything that you even truly believe. Like
Right.
at the end of your feelings, there can really be nothing. There's nothing out there.
Yeah.
You're just
Yeah.
you're just chasing, tumbleweeds. But
Yeah.
at the end of your principle is a promise that you made to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when it talks about how do I get to motivation, or how do I get to staying in alignment with the things that I say that I want to accomplish or that I want to do, is about being principled with ourself,
Mhm.
about saying I'm making this commitment to me, and it really has nothing to do with how I feel right now. Because if I leave it
Yeah.
up to my
Yeah.
feelings will have me all over the place,
For real.
and it doesn't take much to sway a feeling.
It doesn't. And also, I want people to understand that, we have somatic memories, like where our body remembers things. And because of this fact, there are times where a feeling will happen in the moment. Right now we're in 2023, but that feeling is very familiar to something that happened 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, the body can like create this habitual response, and you may do the thing you did 20 years ago that doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that's why like trying to be more consciously aware of what you're feeling, creating these like disciplined habits will allow you to not only see when it's happening, but make a better choice. And whatever that is for you, like when I think about success, and I don't think about America's standards for success.
Yeah.
I really want people to think about like what success is for them. And as we started talking about, people coming to you, having these goals, what part of their goals feel like, do you find that people sometimes kind of are talking in the basis of like society goals and not really basing it like measurable according to like what works for them and what they need?
So the goal itself may not necessarily be unattainable, or
Mhm.
or what have you, but a lot of times it's the 0 to 100.
Okay.
It's the A, and then it's not A to Z, it's A Z.
Yeah.
I want to be there. Like regardless of where I am now, and regardless of what it takes to get, like I just want to be there. Like whatever over
Yeah.
there is, that's what I'm trying to get to.
Which
Like,
is understandable. I get why you would want to do that,
yeah.
right?
And so the thing is, okay, well, what does it take to get there?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that there requires X amount of studying, X amount of degrees, so many hours of applied practice and effort, working out X amount of days, like whatever the steps that takes to get whatever there is. And then once there, what those steps are presented, then it's like, oh, well, I don't feel like doing
Mhm.
that.
It happens more often. I mean, I even say it to
Yeah.
myself, and sometimes I succumb. I'm not gonna say I sit here. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to y'all and be like, every time I don't feel like it, I always go and do the thing I wanted that I
Yeah.
need to do. There are moments where I don't do what I need to do, right?
Yeah.
But I'm mindful where I don't allow it to become like this habit. I'm like, all right, Celeste, you took this time off. You didn't do this that you said you was gonna do tomorrow. But I'm really big on like creating a plan. So it's not like I do it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing about, so if it understands that these are the 20 things that are necessary to get to there, whatever there is for an
Yeah.
individual. There may not be a tangible dollar amount.
Right,
So
right.
for some people, there is, I want to have a better line of communication with my significant other. That might be somebody's there. Okay, well,
Mhm.
what steps do I need to get to there? Okay,
Yeah,
well, I need to be a better active listener. I need
yeah,
to, I may need to read more. I may need to up my vocabulary because I
yeah,
get frustrated
yeah.
when I can't find the right word. Then I get angry with myself. Then I shut down. Then I walk away and I stop talking. Okay,
Yep.
so I may need an English class. I might need, we may need to go speak to somebody together. These are all the steps that may lead you to there.
Yeah,
And if it's like, well, I don't want to go to that class anymore, or I don't want to go see that therapist anymore. Okay, but these are the things that are getting you there.
yeah,
And
and
so
mhm.
sometimes it's like, okay, if there's truly where I want to be, then I need to put value in these standards and these practices and this and being disciplined, not because
Yeah,
I care about the class, but I care about the communication. Not
yes,
because I care about the step class, but I care about being able to fit in or look a certain way in these particular clothes.
right.
I don't care about this moment here. I care about the ability to be able to financially provide for my family at the end result. If there is truly where I want to be, then these steps I have to treat with more value and respect so I can behave my way to where it is I say I want to be.
Mhm. As you use the relationship piece as an example of like if I want to communicate better with my spouse, and I think about like I'm a therapist for, and I talk, and I'm a big communicator. My husband's completely opposite. Jermaine did the DISC assessment; he could tell you we're complete opposites. And I remember when I felt like I would want to talk about something, and I felt like he would shut down, but I had to learn that he needed time to process, right? And so, like, when we're thinking about, I want to communicate better with my partner, and I get anxiety when I don't know what's going on. You ain't saying nothing, then I'm feeling a certain way. That means I have to sit with discomfort. So
Yes.
sometimes where you need to be will cause some discomfort in you.
Yeah.
But now, like, because it's been years of me, like, being able to understand and, like, okay, this is what it is, I've gotten used to it, but at the beginning it was hard,
Yeah.
right? And so as you're working on trying to and it doesn't have to be a relationship, it could be anything that you're trying to do or work on change, know that your system is going to be very and this is a lot of times why people stop the process of working through and trying to behave their way to where they're trying to get to, is that there's this discomfort there. What are your thoughts about that?
Um, I think it's twofold with that. So I think there's the first group who, once you start going against the grain on anything, there may be a certain degree of resistance, and you're like, you know,
Yeah.
I I, I don't like this feeling of I'm not getting what I want right now.
Right now, yeah.
And so it's like, okay, well, we're trying, I want this household to be better. Maybe there's my significant other, it's not that cool. Me and my kids are having problems relating, whatever it is, there's something in this house that's not that this house ain't housing right now. Like there's something that I need to be different. Okay, so here are the things I'm putting in place where we're spending more time together. We're
Right.
talking about things that maybe I don't want to talk about.
Right. Right. Yep.
I got to listen to stories that these people want to share because it's
Yeah.
going to make them connect more. But I don't care about any of the subjects that they're talking about.
Yeah.
So I got to take a back seat to my feelings for the greater good of what it is I say I want.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's that space of like, okay, I'm talking about stuff I don't want to talk about, or I'm feeling things I don't want to feel, or I have to participate in things that could think of someplace else I'd rather be, or something else I'd rather be doing. So that uncomfortableness is something that we sometimes try to avoid.
Mm-hmm.
And the other side of that is that the other side of that coin is that we see success early and then want to skip scenes on the process.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's we need to do these 10 things to get where we're going. Well, we're doing well through the first five, and then all of a sudden realize, oh well, I don't need the others five. I'm good. But there's things in those other five that's going to help us sustain being good.
Right. Right.
Or there's things that are coming around the corner that we haven't seen yet that we would have learned better tools to deal with them if we'd have gone through all 10 scenes, but instead we did good in those first 2 or 3, and we just like, oh, I don't need that. You know, I think one of the best things are people who take medication for something. I
Yeah.
need you to take this for 3 weeks, and then after 10 days they feel better,
Yeah, they
so they stop
stop.
taking them.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then by day 14, day 15, they're feeling bad again.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, well,
Yeah.
no, because you were supposed to take them for 21 days and you
Yeah.
stopped after 10. And, you know,
Yeah.
you lost weight the first week and then you quit coming to the gym because you was like, I don't need this trainer no more. And then
Right.
2 weeks later, you gained it back. Like sometimes
Right.
we see some success and then we think we don't need the rest of the process.
Yeah, it's true. It had like here in Massachusetts where we have summer months, I notice people they feel better, but they're out more, they're in the sun, they're
Yeah.
moving their bodies. They're not kind of in the house because it's too cold. And so like I'm constantly when I'm working with people reminding them, okay, what's your plan for the fall and the winter? Because it happens every year.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, this is just what happens in the winter. It's like, no, that like, there's a reason why. And the reason why you've been feeling good is because of some of the things you've been doing. But you're right. A lot of times we do these things and we feel good. But then we stop the process, right? And anything that you're trying to do and create like in a healthy way, it's going to require intention. It's going to require discipline.
Yeah.
The same way I say to people, like, I ate yesterday, but I got to eat today, right? Just because I ate yesterday don't mean I stop eating today. And people don't realize just how much, pouring into themselves, whether it's through like listening to something, whether it's therapy, coaching, whether it's the gym, walking, right? It's interesting how I'll have somebody say, yeah, I'm trying to like figure out which gym I want to go to. And I was like, why don't you just go walk? Like,
Yeah.
it's like what, like, we don't realize, going, I want to touch on how, social media can play a role in this idea of, I just want to get to Z. But I think we don't realize how in this country, they market so well that you don't even realize, like, sometimes you have what you need to get started.
Yeah.
Right? Like a lot of times we think we need this, we need that, we need to find it's like, you know what, even if I didn't find a perfect gym or I ain't got the finances, I got 2 feet and I got a street.
Yeah.
When I was before I could afford a gym and my kids were young, I remember when they would go to sleep, I would go on YouTube and I had like stairs in my house. I would go up and down the stairs, like running up and down, literally. Like my mindset has always been like, okay, like I know you can't afford the gym. I know you don't have the capacity to leave the house. What can you do? And I really want people to kind of take on that mindset, but touch on what, like how much social media probably plays a role in people's kind of unrealistic expectations.
Yeah. So America in itself is predicated on a disposable society.
Mm-hmm.
So it's why we care about the brand new this.
Yeah.
You know, it used to be every couple years something new would come out. Then they make a big deal about the every year model. Now everything's come out twice a year. Like there's always some kind of upgrade and we create everything as kind of disposable and what's new and what's right now. And so
Yeah.
sometimes we get hung up on we already have enough. Maybe
We
being little
do.
kids, I want McDonald's. We got food at the house. Sometimes we social media will show us that the brand new, iPhone 9,000 that just came out yesterday. Meanwhile, the one you've got now is fine. But
Mm-hmm.
because it's new, I want to throw out or disregard what's right in front of me for that thing that seems like that's what I need.
Right.
We have a lot of access to things that can help us in our mental and emotional space, our physical
Yeah.
health, when it
Yeah.
comes to community and conversation. We have a lot of stuff at our disposal, but sometimes because it's not that thing, we don't place the value on what we do
Right.
have.
Right.
And so some people will say like, well, if I can't go to the brand new gym that just opened up, I'm just not going to work out till I can.
Right.
And you're
That's
like, or we'll go out, we'll go for a walk. Yeah, but my sneakers are old. When I get new shoes, then I'll go.
yeah.
Well, but those aren't broken down. Those aren't, those are just perfectly out. Yeah, but the new ones, I'll do it when I get the new ones. I'll do this when the brand new building opens or when the new whatever. And so sometimes because social media is always showing us the brand new, the
Mhm.
highlights, the ribbon cutting and the shine and all that, we don't realize what we do have accessible to us and don't maybe put enough value on it.
Yeah, yeah. And for people, today we touched on just realistic expectations and how it's important to go through the steps.
Yeah.
But for people listening, because we do, I always say I let people, like, as I'm talking to people, because I don't pathologize things, I just say what it is.
Yeah.
And part of what it is that there's a lot going against us when we're trying to be well and stay on track, right?
Yeah.
The more we feel insecure, the more we feel we need something, America profits. um, but also there's a choice, right? But I think the more we're educated on the different things that are happening, we can work on being intentional about creating the choice that will work for us.
Yeah.
But for people that are like, yeah, there's so many forces against me, and I'm hearing you, how do I work on just putting my head down and just getting discipline? Like what kind of steps or what kind of encouragement would you say to those people that is finding value in this dialogue today
Yeah.
and want to like work on creating change today? Because I know that's what you're
Um,
about. What can we
yeah.
do today?
I'd probably say the first thing I think something you say all the time is write the vision.
Hmm.
Like whatever, wherever whatever
Yeah.
there is for you, write it out, make it plain, make it simple, make it easy. You don't have to overcomplicate it. It's like what is it that I want? Am I trying to make more money? Am I trying to, like I said, communicate better? Am I trying to lose weight? Am I trying to maybe just get through the day a little bit easier? Like what am I trying to, do? And then try to figure out a way to, what are the steps necessary? And if I don't know the steps, who can help me with the steps? So
Yeah.
like if I say I want to work out, I want to get a six pack, I'm trying to be shirts off summer and try to be out here, you know, kicking it, but pools. Okay, I may not know the exercises that are best. I know what I want to look like, but I don't necessarily know what I need to do. Who might know what I need to do?
Hmm.
Okay, so who are those people? I got an idea of what I want to do. I have an idea how much money I want to make. I have an idea of what I want my body to look like. I have an idea of like the kind of family or relationship dynamic I want to have. Like I have that vision, that idea. I write that out. Now, if I don't have the information myself, who may I go to that does? So if I'm looking for a next measurable step, can I find somebody, resources? This is the most information at your fingertips
Man,
error in the history of human beings.
on the back, yo.
So
And I just want to pause for one quick second because asking for help can feel hard. Like I'm a
yeah,
witness to that. Like I was very independent growing up. I had to do everything on my own. And a lot of people in our community have had that or have been told like keep it in the family or don't talk
yeah,
about nothing or you don't want to seem stupid. Like these
yeah,
things where it's like, no, like we got to ask for help. And if you're afraid to talk to a person, start Googling, right? Like I think there's so many resources out there, but I don't think we think that way because immediately we'll be like, why don't I know this? I'm so stupid. There's so much I don't know. I'm big
yeah,
on, I could be a recording with somebody and they'll say something like, what does that mean? Or talking to somebody. Like I'm clear on my limitations. Like I'm
yeah.
not a sponge. I don't soak up information well. Like again, self-awareness without judgment,
Without the
right?
judgment. Yeah,
I understand that that's not a strength of mine's, like a lot of vocabulary. I didn't have a lot of vocabulary. And so your second step of what are the steps and who can help me, I
yeah,
think is important because we can't always do it alone.
yes. So if the thing is what we're looking for is requires another person, or it may not. Like say you may just have to spend an afternoon on Google
Right, right, right. Yeah.
of just let me figure out what are the things that I need to do. What are the things that are going to get me there? Okay, so then you set up a timetable,
Yeah.
setting yourself up. Okay, I'm trying to make, I'm trying to make $50,000 more this year than I made last year,
Hmm.
or that's the goal for next year. Just
Hmm.
arbitrary number. Okay, so what do I need to do? What are ways? Do I get another job? Am I trying to get a raise at this one? Am I trying to start a business? Am I like, what am I trying to? What are some ways that I can do these things? I'm trying to get in shape. Okay, what are some workouts I can do? How many days a week? How many hours a session? Like, find those tangible marks. What's that?
Sorry. Oh, I was saying I was writing down timetable. Did I say it out
Yeah.
loud?
Oh yeah. Sorry.
No, I was thinking about when people are talking about trying to pay off their credit card debt, and I
Yeah.
tell them like write it down, like write down each card, and then each month, so you can see the numbers go down and look at like how you're gonna, like when people create that plan and that timetable,
Yeah.
the debt was still there, but it feels better because they feel like it's attainable goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're trying to reduce debt, okay, this is how much I make. Maybe my income doesn't change, but my output can.
Hmm.
So how much do I need? What? How much? How do I come up with an extra $200? Okay, cut it off here,
Right.
here, 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 here,
Yes.
and here.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Here's your
Hmm.
200. Put that 200 towards this.
Hmm.
As long as you don't spend over this amount on these particular things, you'll
Yeah.
always have the extra $200 a month to put towards this debt. Like giving yourself measurables, benchmarks that you can follow, and think that something that's important. So, like we're talking about people with the motivation and the discipline, if you find yourself starting to waver, like going back there, okay, what do I have a tendency to put in what I'm supposed to be doing's place?
Yeah. Yeah. Be
I'm
proactive.
I'm supposed to go to the gym 3 days a week. I made it once. What did I put in its place?
Yeah.
I was supposed to save that extra $200, but I ended up spending 300. I not only didn't save the two I was supposed to, but I spent 300 on top. Okay, what did I buy in its place?
Yeah.
What are these things that I have a tendency to do because these are my behaviors? I have to
Right.
can't think myself out of something I behave my way
Yeah.
into. I need to behave my way out. What are the behaviors that are getting in my way?
Yeah.
Can't get up early in the morning. I got up early 2 days in a row, then I overslept three. Okay,
Yeah.
what is getting in my way of getting up at 5:30? Oh, I stay up till 2. Or I drink at 10, which gives me not a
Yeah.
real complete sleep. So I don't feel rested to be up at 5:30. Okay, these are the behaviors that are getting in the way of the steps that gets me to my vision.
Hmm.
Like having actual benchmarks and standards, because
Hmm.
it's the standards that we set determine the results that we get.
Hmm.
So if you don't set those things in place, it does not impossible, but it becomes a lot more difficult to get to those things that we need to get to, that we want
Yep.
to get to. Yeah,
Yep.
the standards that we set determine the results that we get. So it's these are the things I'm trying to do, and then let me be aware of the things I'm doing that are getting in my own way.
I know. So good. Just what it is.
Yeah, what is?
Wait.
And it's not I'm bad for this, I'm
Nope.
lazy for this, I'm
Yep.
dumb for that. None of that talk. Just
Yep.
simply what am I doing?
Yeah.
I'm eating too much sugar too late in the day, so I stay
Yeah.
up later than I should. That's why I'm having difficulty waking up in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay. I know the behavior. Like I got a shoe addiction. I buy too many hats. I go to the bar and I'm trying to buy rounds for everybody. Okay, that's where my
Right.
money's
Right.
going. Those are my behaviors on my money. Okay,
Right.
that's
Right.
me
Right.
getting in my own way of saving money. Okay, so no trips to the mall. I'm blocking. I'm taking the app off of Amazon off the phone.
And that's going to feel uncomfortable, not
Yeah,
buying rounds of drinks for people, not having that sugar at night. Like when you're used to something, it's going to be uncomfortable.
yeah,
But Jermaine's point is that when you recognize like those are the behaviors that are getting, like you're making a conscious effort.
yeah,
Before I became conscious, I was just doing everything out of habit, off of
yeah,
survival, right? The more I became conscious, it's not that I stopped doing the sugar at night or buying the rounds overnight, but when I bought the rounds, it's like, okay, what am I doing? Like now I'm thinking about it. Now I'm
yeah,
like, okay, I got it. I need to come up with a plan for tomorrow, or whatever it is, right? I'm just using that as an example, that it's not that the change, and I just want to encourage people, the change doesn't happen overnight, but
yeah.
it won't happen by accident either.
Mm-mm.
And so like if you're intentionally and being more conscious of like your behaviors, when you do it, don't judge yourself, but think about, oh, what happened that night? How did I get here? How can
Yes.
I do it different? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And once we become aware of, it's self-awareness. It's like,
Yeah.
where am I, what's getting in my, if it ever reaches the point to where what's getting in my way consistently keeps me out of position, am I
Yeah.
being honest with myself about what I said my vision was?
Exactly. Yep.
So you may reach a point in your life, you'd be like, you know what? A six pack is not that important to me.
For real.
Like I'm going back and forth with myself about I
That's
didn't go to the
all
gym.
about
I'm beat
me.
myself up over
Right.
these cookies. But then do I really want? I really don't want one.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
let me be honest with myself about what it is I do want. So I have a clear
Yeah.
vision that I'm being true to myself about.
Yeah.
You know, and so because that's one thing too. We say things social media can you're talking about. We say things that sound good or that I
Talking points.
should want.
Yeah.
Everybody doesn't want to be rich.
Everybody don't want kids. Everybody don't want to be married. Like
All
it's
that
like,
stuff. So what's the honest, true vision for me?
yeah.
What is the information that I need to obtain that's going to get me to where I'm going? Put the
Mm-hmm.
behaviors in place that support the information. And if I
Mm-hmm.
have behaviors that are contradicting, what are those behaviors? And then address those.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
doing those things can start to set, and that will start to become a pattern of behavior, which then we can start to become more disciplined about. That when our feelings kind of come in and out, we can still stay on course for what it is that we say we're trying to do.
I love that. Those are really good. And I just want to encourage people, start today.
Yeah,
I think we waste so much time uh, thinking about what we didn't do and not what we could do, and not thinking about the fact that if I start today, this day next year, I'll be in a different place than I was, as opposed to all the times that I miss. Can't it is we miss the boat on certain things, but
yeah,
what can we do now? And I think I know we do not understand just how much mindset shifting can really change our trajectory.
yeah,
And again, it's have some people that they're trying to figure out how's this going to work. Like this, it's like let's not think about. Let's just what are we going to do?
yeah,
And so if you can behave your way into your goals, and I love the fact that you pointed out looking at some of the barriers that have kept you from it, and just being more mindful of it, and really work on creating change today, because it really starts with intent. So thank you for that. That was
yeah.
really good.
Oh, thank you. I know no one has got this perfect path
No,
and everything figured out. I just think that
no,
sometimes that giving ourselves grace for the trial and error that life is.
yep,
And so it's like we're all of us are figuring it out as we go. But there is
yep.
information out there that there is help.
Mm-hmm.
And so for the things that we
Yeah,
may not have learned, like we're not, it's not just us. Like there's people who walk the same path, who's been there before, or can be supportive while we're going through it. If we just
yeah,
kind of sometimes just branch out a little bit. And
yeah. It's good.
yeah,
I'm big on words. I'll joke around, but like if I forgot something, oh my gosh, how did I forget that? I'm so dumb, like joking
yeah,
around. And my daughter says like, don't call yourself dumb, because I'm
yeah,
so big on language. Um, so it's for me, like I know I'm not dumb. I just like I sometimes I just talk reckless, but
Oh
it's
no,
just so
I'm big on
hard
that too.
for me.
Whenever I have friends who say something, I was like, I said I don't let people talk
Yeah,
about my friends that way, even them.
yeah. I've taught my kids so much,
Yeah,
because it doesn't matter what kind of clothes they have or what they have. Emotional intelligence is key.
yeah,
And so I appreciate this conversation today. It was really good. I know somebody's gonna like really find what they need.
yeah,
Um, and these kind of like podcast and dialogue can really help you shift. It's like looking at it as your medicine, I think,
yeah,
to help you with mindset shifting.
yeah. Like I said, and being honest with ourselves of whatever we actually want.
Yes,
You
yes,
know,
yes, yes.
that I think that's harder than people not being disciplined. Is that you're trying to be disciplined about something you don't really want in the first place.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So.
Yep. Tell people how they can find you.
Yeah. So if you have any issues, questions about like the DISC assessment or the coaching or anything, you can go to mykeystome.com. That's MYKEYSTOME, mykeystome.com. And on the website, there's information about the assessment, It comes with a 22-page report, very detailed about how we are, how we interact with people when things are okay versus how we become when we're under stress or under pressure. It's great if we're just trying to get a good diagnostic of how we are as an individual. And there's all that information on there. We can set you up with a consultation, go over it, get you started if you like. And all social media platforms are all at J Morris CEO.
Jermaine, thank you so much.